Hi, my name is Dan Flesyshman. I was the youngest founder of a publicly traded company, and I'm one of the passionate few.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of The Passionate Few. Today I'm going to be sitting down with Dan Flesyshman. He's the youngest founder of a publicly traded company in history, but he's also a serial entrepreneur, investor, philanthropist, and author, and today we're going to pick his mind and hear the whole story. So thanks for being on the show today, Dan.
My pleasure.
So let's get right into it, my man. What's it like to be the youngest founder of a publicly traded company in history?
It was an accomplishment unlike anything else I've ever done in my life because I was 23 years old. So I was a baby, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it set me up for the rest of life. And going through the hundreds and hundreds of hours of paperwork that was involved, and then again every quarter, it made me realize things about the legal side of things, the business side of things, people's greed, understanding human emotion and what people wanted and what triggered people. Mm-hmm. I think a lot was learned in those accountant offices and those lawyers' offices. And then the flip side of it is it gave us access to, we had thousands of shareholders, and it gave us access to people's input. So we would realize very, very quickly whether we were doing things good or bad. And even when we did things really good, sometimes you would get the most frustration from people because they wanted to invest more or they wanted to be more involved. Yeah. So I think it caused so many aspects of my life that I would never give it up.
And then how did it feel for your mom? Because I know you came from humble beginnings too, right?
Yeah.
How did it feel for your mom after, that success and some of the successes after? I mean, what's that feel like to see your mom in obviously a better situation?
Sure.
How does that feel for you?
So, she was making 20 to 24 grand a year most of the time working for a real estate company. And so once I went public, I was able to hire her to help run the company with us because she actually studied on the side and got her master's to write what's called the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. Mm-hmm. And so she was involved in this huge legal SEC thing, and I happened to be going public, and she happened to be studying that for years, and it just worked out perfectly that I actually ended up getting to hire her with a really good paying job, and it wasn't like me, doing my mom a favor. Yeah. No, she was like literally one of the people involved in the SEC rules and understanding what was going on in the world. Mm-hmm. So she helped us a lot.
Where did all this ambition begin? Because I know you started out very young. Where did all this drive begin?
It began out of necessity. Mm-hmm. So when we first moved here from Russia, my mom, we didn't have any money. Mm-hmm. And my mom was making 20 grand a year, trying to support a family of 4. And so I had to work. So when I was 4 years old, every weekend we were at the swap meet. She was selling Levi's jeans with my dad, and I was selling baseball cards and comic books.
How old were you at that time?
4.
Wow.
Literally 4 years old.
Wow.
So they'd have Levi's 501 jeans set up there, and I had my little table, and I was hustling baseball cards and comic books. And for 4 years I did that until I was 8 years old. And then my parents got divorced, and then necessity became the next level because we picked up and moved to San Diego. And so when we were in San Diego, it was me and my mom and my brother and dad were in a different city in Los Angeles. And so then that was like, oh my gosh, we're living in like a 93-year-old lady's extra bedroom that was actually more like a living room, and it was me and my mom together and on a couch essentially.
Wow.
And so same thing, I just had to now take all the baseball cards and comic books I had and start trying to flip them and sell them and trade and upgrade and do whatever I had to do. And I started getting really good at the games. So I could start winning competitions at the Comic Con, and so I'd win $500, $1,000, and keep giving it to my mom.
Yeah.
So it all really started from there. And as soon as I hit high school, I was working 3 jobs. I was working at the stadium selling peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
Yeah.
Working at a restaurant as a host, whatever, and working at a stockbroker, and helping them.
All simultaneously at high school.
Simultaneously, yep.
So when you hear other people out there that are complaining about how much they have on their plate, I mean, what are your thoughts when it comes to managing it all?
I call it fake busy. Because you choose what you want to do, right? High school, people can be overwhelmed just from the schoolwork. I was doing my schoolwork plus 3 jobs plus whatever else I had to do. And I was selling candy out of a bag, out of my backpack. And then I wanted to make more, so I started convincing teachers to place candy at their front desk and let them keep 1 candy per day for doing it for me because I couldn't give them money. And then every Friday I would collect the money from them. And I had 5 out of my 6 teachers selling The only one that wasn't was the gym class wouldn't do it. All my other teachers were selling candy for me.
So
you choose what you want to do.
So that entrepreneurial bug, because most people in school don't think like that. Did you get that from your mom or from the hustle and swap meets, or was it really just necessity that made you resourceful enough to look in every direction of?
Yeah, I think it was just, she was always scrappy, and I just had to do it. So I didn't think twice about it, and I didn't what else was I gonna do? You know, I didn't sleep much, so I still got to play video games. I still got to do the kid stuff. But really, what was I gonna do? Just sit and watch TV for 10 hours a day?
Right.
Especially back then. It's weird to say back then, but we didn't have cell phones. We didn't in high school.
Yeah, so you didn't have anything to waste your time, so you were just being productive.
Yeah, there was no smartphones.
Did you find it hard to relate to other people at your age because you were so busy or on it so much, whereas most people aren't?
No, I mean, I still was a kid at heart. I was still actively involved in things with them, and I tried to every business and every company I've ever had, I always try to incorporate other people. Meaning, I'd always throw live events, I'd always throw charity events, I'd always throw things that would involve other people, and that was kind of my fun, right? So if I throw an event, I get to see my couple hundred friends every time I do that. If I throw a charity event, I just get to have the elements that I want. So when people say it doesn't feel like work, it doesn't feel like work, it's part of my life. The work is part of my life, so nothing can feel like work, it just is, it's always work.
It's all work and play in one.
Right.
And then in high school, when you started doing that with selling the candies and scaling it with the teachers and all that, at what point did you go, maybe I could turn this into a bigger business, right? Because it was at 17 that the Who's Your Daddy thing came about.
So senior year is when my partner kept joking about the name Who's Your Daddy, and he kept saying it on the football field, saying it around class, and I always noticed that people would laugh. Whether they took it sexually or for sports or funny, people all had a reaction to it. Nobody just was calm, and they always had a reaction.
To Who's Your Daddy?
Yeah. So we started trademarking it for different catchphrases. I was taking the money I was saving for college, because I'd saved up 43 grand to go to SDSU. And I would pay $800 for a trademark, $1,200 for a trademark, $700 for a trademark. And we were accumulating trademarks.
Just in case, or it was the business model that?
We were making t-shirts at the time, but we wanted to trademark it for baby clothes or for printed materials or plastic items, each different class. So we ended up getting 17 classes of trademarks for 300 products in 5 continents.
So the goal was to do that, to then license it out, to create revenue?
The goal was to focus on the clothing to license out, and then anybody that wanted anything else around the name to license that out. So we got lucky because we got into some department stores, but then Starter Apparel licensed us out for the UK for $9.5 million for a 3-year deal. So the percentage that we were getting from that every quarter was funding all of our roller coasters, all our ups and downs.
And how old were you at that stage?
We were just turning 19.
Wow. And then did you feel like you were doing stuff way bigger than people around you, or were you so focused that you didn't notice the scale of the environment?
I felt it because in every meeting it was awkward. We were 18, 19.
Yeah.
And we were meeting with the buyers of chain stores and investors and partners and distributors and wholesalers and manufacturers and people that, they're so much older and so much wiser, and I just had an unwavering spirit to do, act as if, I knew I had to do this stuff.
Right.
And some of them took advantage of us, and some of them propelled us. So some guy would charge us $36,000 for samples of sweatshirts and hats. That should have been $3 grand. And they charged us 10 times or 12 times what it should have cost.
Wow.
Right? So some people hustled us.
Yeah.
Other people saw what was happening, gave us a line of credit for all of our manufacturing, financed the orders.
They worked with you guys. But
I think that it was important to meet both, because if I didn't get screwed by those situations, other things wouldn't have happened. And so I don't ever regret the bad stuff, because it helps me in the future, and it also helps the people around me, because I give them advice hey, your clothes should cost you $3 grand to make, and here's who you should talk to. In every aspect of life, I can say, no, don't use that kind of attorney, use this kind of attorney, use a specialized one because they'll charge you this. That guy's gonna charge you $3 grand for a trademark when you should be paying $800. So the people that hustled me actually helped me, which is kind of a weird thing to think about.
And then now you can help other people because you've gotten those lessons out of it. Now I want to ask, when you were doing those meetings, when you guys were, from 17 to 19, you said your partner, you guys were doing the Who's Your Daddy licensing stuff. Where did you guys prepare? I mean, were you guys going to libraries, or where did you guys develop your business acumen, or did you guys just kind of wing it and learn as you went?
Sure. So we did that from 17 to 27. So 10 years was all Who's Your Daddy. because we ended up doing the energy drinks, was like a 6-year chapter of my life. My partner's father, he ran a $200 million a year company. So he had that kind of advisor. On my side, my brother, he was like, 13 years older, the perfect accountant, White House with a picket fence. Like he was
structured.
Yeah, the polar opposite of me. I was the wild entrepreneur, and we both.
Yeah. Who's your daddy and the most structured guy in the world?
Exactly. Yeah. He's still a CFO, 20 years later. So I had my brother to like keep me prim and proper, and my partner had his father to give us advice. But then we started getting mentors. The guy that got us the big licensing deal, he owned the brands like Fender guitars for clothing, Fender guitars, Ocean Pacific, Hang 10, Body Glove. He owned all these big licenses. And so he was kind of our advisor, he was our advisor for years, and he helped us get into chain stores, licensing deals, protect us from the evil. He was our everything. So most of my success during that period of life was attributed to him, which also then spiraled into everything else. And I'm still close with him and his son, especially the son 20 years later. The son's one of my best friends.
Wow. Where did you guys meet?
I walked into his warehouse. I just walked in.
Really? You just cold walked in?
Yeah.
To ask a question or to get quotes? Or do you remember what it was for?
The same, a lot of the business back then, because again, there was no such thing as social media. I had a pager, in high school. So I remember walking in after one convention. I went to the Calvin Klein offices in New York with no meeting.
Just cold
because the president had his booth next to mine at the Action Sports Retail Show. And he said, "Oh yeah, come visit me when you're in New York." I went to New York 2 days later.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Why would I wait? So I walk in to meet with the president. Mary J. Blige is in there getting a fitting. And remember, this is 18 years, 20 years.
And are you nervous or no?
For what?
So
what are they going to say no?
You're just going in strong to all these scenarios.
I walked right up to the secretary. I said, "I have a meeting with the president." And so my meeting with the president ended up getting me the meeting with the CEO, who owned Fubu at the time, and he owned DoorDash. Not owned, he was the CEO of DoorDash at the time.
And how old are you at this stage?
18, 19.
18,
19, yeah.
Okay.
And so that reckless abandon, or just kind of acting as if, what were they going to say? No? Okay, so I'll come back tomorrow, right?
Go get a nice hotel for the night and come back tomorrow,
which is funny, as we actually didn't have a hotel room. My partner and I flew there. We did a red eye at midnight so we could land at 6 a.m. to go straight to their office at 8. Walked in, met with them all day, and then we had no hotel room, and we flew back on a red eye that night.
Wow.
We just didn't have the...
Yeah. So then when you just didn't have the know-how of how to do it all. So then when you guys fly back, what happens? What's the discussion on the flight back?
The president of Calvin Klein became the president of my company for 4 years.
At 18 or 19 years old?
Yeah.
And then you guys fly back, and then what was the plan from there?
We didn't have a plan. We knew we had to go to that meeting, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And so we got back, a week went by, and that president told us that he was so inspired by entrepreneurship, and he loved the name, the brand, because remember that name, especially back then, was still super fresh and hot. It's still funny now, but back then it was
even more. Yeah.
People were chanting it during the World Series, the baseball World Series, Yankees versus Red Sox. It was the cover of every magazine, newspaper, literally the whole World Series. People are just chanting, "Who's your daddy?" So that timing was just epic.
Perfect. And you're loving it everywhere you see it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just the greatest feeling.
And so he ended up becoming the president. We ended up buying a bunch of other clothing lines, doing a whole joint venture, and blah, blah, blah. But it all happened from literally a chance meeting at the convention, his booth being next to ours, us talking, and then him giving me his card and saying, "Come out."
To New York. Yeah. And then you taking the initiative to actually do it.
Yeah, I didn't call. I literally went. I went.
Yeah, because most people most people would get the card and say, "Oh yeah, I'll think about it or I'll get to it," but you just kind of act as if. Yeah. Now, would you say that mental approach is what's responsible for a large part of the momentum you've been able to build in business and investing?
Yeah, I think it causes the snowball. Obviously, you can't do everything in reckless abandon, especially the older you get. When you start to have kids and family, and you have other people that you're responsible for, you shouldn't and you can't. I'm 19 years old. What's going to happen? I'm going to go broke? So what? I'm going to stay at my mom's house. When you're in your early 20s, I just feel like it's gamble time. I think it's your shot at glory. And if you lose, as long as you can stay with your friends or family or on a couch, what does it really matter?
Right.
Like, I don't know. We grew up with such little money. Even if I went broke today, like,
Yeah.
I'm going to figure it out again.
No problem. And then you end up rolling the dice and lo and behold become what you're now known for as being the youngest founder of a publicly traded company in history at 23, correct? You beat out Michael Dell, who was 24 when he did it. How did that all come about?
He beat me by a couple $1 billion though.
Yes.
So we wanted to launch an energy drink under the same "Who's Your Daddy" catchphrase. And we met with some of the guys from New York, and they introduced us to some venture capitalists, and we decided that this was going to be like a whole big thing. We're going to go for it on the energy drink side. So my focal point was not about the finance. Like, I dealt with a ton of paperwork, which I wouldn't want to go public again because it's insane. It's $2 million and 2 years of paperwork.
Wow.
Back then, so imagine what it is nowadays.
And you did all that by yourself, just kind of learning as you went, right?
We had lawyers and accountants around us, but it was very, very, very intense and very, very tedious and very long. Filing 8Ks and 10Qs and things that you just don't even know what the hell they mean. 23 years old at the time.
But it must have been super exciting, right?
Yeah, the day we went public, it was insanity. Like, we raised $3.75 million in a couple hours.
And what does that
Again,
feel
this
like?
is 2005.
Yeah.
And it was crazy.
What does it feel like the day you wake up when, like, today's the day that you're going to go public? What are the thoughts that are flowing through your mind?
It's funny because I was in meetings with lawyers that morning. And so I didn't get out till like noonish, and we'd gone public at 8 in the morning, and I didn't even I didn't say I didn't know, but I didn't.
It's not like you were ringing the bell or something like that.
No, I wish. But the fascinating twist, the guys that took us public were bad guys.
Really?
So within 3 weeks, we actually paid them back $4.2 million to get away from us.
Wow.
And we were lucky because they got in trouble for screwing over a bunch of other people's companies, and we were lucky that we got advice from somebody that was like kind of like our grandfather figure, and he warned us, and he was like, "Hey guys, like these guys do what's called a death spiral." I'm like, "What the hell is a death spiral?"
Yeah.
A death spiral is toxic financing, meaning they're giving you money, hoping that you fail, because then they get all of your company, and if you do good, they get more of your company. So either way, they're betting against you to take all of it, and if you do well, they get to have what's called ratchet provisions. They start to get like more and more stock for you doing good. So they didn't want to take the 4.2, but the grandfather figure helped us, and it was like, look,
negotiate that deal.
We can help these kids unwind the whole deal, and you guys will be left. It'll take a couple of years, but you guys will be left holding the bag. Or they're giving you an offer to not just give you your money back, but give you 4.2 instead of 3.75.
Right.
So they took it, and then I don't know if it was years and years later. They didn't go to jail then, but they went years and years later for screwing a bunch of other companies with these death spirals. I mean, how are you supposed to know that stuff? Like,
yeah, so it seems like there's a recurring theme of you just acting as if, and then just accepting the lessons and the heat from moving so fast, and then just learning along the way, tweaking your approach, and then just.
I should have asked the mentors beforehand.
Yeah.
The mentors kept helping me, but I should have asked them beforehand. And now, well, not just now, but the last 10 to 15 years, I'm always talking to the key mentors before I make the decision, the official decision.
How important do you think mentorship is to a lot of people out there that are kind of new to the idea of personal development or mentorship? How important do you think that is?
I think it's so critical because think about what I could have saved if I just would have known, don't pay $36,000 for these samples. Don't do a death spiral toxic financing deal. Don't do blah, blah, blah. Like, if I would have gotten those tips beforehand, I would have saved $33,000, $450,000, like all these steps and lots of headache and emotion along the way. So I think mentors are extremely, extremely critical. They're not simple though. You can't just be like, oh, my uncle owns a restaurant so he can give me advice on clothing.
Right, yeah.
Right?
It's got to be relevant to the industry.
You can still get business advice from the uncle, but when he starts telling you about the samples of your clothing, like, or the labeling or the manufacturing, EDI, shipping, things like, why would he know that stuff, right?
That's true.
So a lot of times people just have the uncle and that's their end-all be-all. I prefer if they go to the clothing conventions, I'm just using clothing as the example, go to all the clothing related things, but also it's 2017. There's every forum, website, blog, Twitter, Instagram,
seminar, yeah.
I mean, there's everything online. Every webcast and podcast, and like you just have so much access now. It's insanity if you don't have mentors that you know in person or can watch them. Watch Gary Vee and Ty Lopez and Andy Frisella and all these characters. Like you can just watch them online and you can even message them, and a lot of times get responses. So.
And then I did want to ask, after everything you've done, everything you've been through, what have been some of the most challenging experiences where you just didn't know how you were going to get through it and push through the other side?
I think the most challenging experiences are caused by other people. And because what's frustrating is when you don't have control. And so if you tell somebody, hey, design this cover for me, and then a week goes by, and then 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks, and 4 weeks goes by, and I'm not a web designer or a cover designer or a logo designer, that is frustrating. That happens in every aspect of your business and personal life. And so the most frustrating thing to me is trusting other people to get shit done. And so I try to babysit them and poke them and prod them a little bit to help them want to get it done. You have to kind of make things people's idea. You have to get them excited to make this really cool cover for you, right?
And then at what point do you decide to, that they're not the person for the job? If their feet are dragging too much, or what's your process of evaluation for when you're like, okay, this might not be the person?
So a lot of times the poking and prodding is I tell them, hey, I also have my friend working on this too. I'll send it to you once I get their version of it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that drives people.
Yeah.
That puts a real fire under somebody's butt. They have to go do it now.
It creates urgency.
Right, because I didn't say I'm firing you. I said I'm looking at another option, I'll send it to you. So I'm nicely, it's like passive aggressive.
Right. And I want to ask, because you've obviously had a ton of experience as an entrepreneur, as a serial entrepreneur, I want to ask about the energy drinks, because it's a famous story that you got them into, I think like 55,000 stores. Yeah. Lost almost all your sleep. Can you kind of get into that, from how you built the energy drinks from scratch to what you ended up taking it to?
Sure. So there was 900 energy drinks on the market at the time.
900.
But they all had that cough syrup taste to them. That's the only reason I started. I knew I had a fun name, but I didn't want or expect to be the biggest energy drink. Because Red Bull and Monster and Rockstar were doing billions and billions and billions of dollars. I just wanted to be the best tasting energy drink. So how could I do that? Well, who made the best flavored drink at the time? Gatorade. So I went and hunted down the chemist from Gatorade. Again, this is pre-Google.
Right.
So
you're doing this manually. Yeah. And this is for the Who's Your Daddy energy drink.
Yes.
Okay.
So I find this guy, he's like the wild-haired old man, 73 years old, getting like 1/8 of a penny or something per drink. So he's a bazillionaire from Gatorade.
Right.
But he had a grudge to pick with Red Bull, luckily for us. And so he put out a bunch of these sample-sized cups with no name on it, and said, if you can pick the drink that I want you to have, we'll do a 1-year deal. If you hit $1 million or 1 year and you're still alive after a year, you can have it and just give me a percentage. We didn't have to pay me anything up front.
Wow.
Fate, timing, whatever played in, we picked the cranberry pineapple as our first drink. And because I tasted it, I was like, it's this one. He's like, there's 30 drinks here. Are you sure? And he didn't know which one I had.
Right.
I said, I don't need to try anything else. It's this one. And that was like a poker thing that just happened. And we got so lucky because it happened to be the first one I grabbed, and I was so positive I didn't want to even gamble on the other drinks. It was that one. Right. So we got really lucky that we won Flavor of the Year with that drink out of the 900 drinks. He gave us a follow-on, which was a green tea energy drink. 0 sugar, 0 carbs, 0 calories. Won Flavor of the Year again 2 years in a row.
Wow.
So that was my intention. That was my goal, was to be the best flavor. We got it both years right out the gate, and I used that to leverage everything else. Because during that couple years of no sleep, like I went to every single city, and I would have 7 a.m. I'm training the distributors, I'm training the drivers, like how to go sell our drinks. I'm getting in the car with what's called a ride-along. I would get in the trucks with them and go ride along to 7-Eleven, Shell, Chevron, the car wash, whatever.
You're in the trenches.
I'm in the truck with them.
And how old are you at this stage?
23, 24.
Okay, so this is after the company goes public.
We went public, yeah.
This is after dealing with the death spiral challenges. Yes. So on top of that, you're losing sleep starting this thing.
Yes.
Wow.
That's what we raised the money for, was for the energy drink.
Gotcha. So then when you guys are having momentum with the sales, I mean, did that go smooth, or was there a lot of hiccups along that way?
I mean, the main hiccup is we didn't understand why a chain store wouldn't pay us for months. So we would ship to Albertsons or Costco or Ralph's or Vons, 7-Eleven, etc., Let's say this is a company I just recently invested in. So let's say I send them 100,000 bottles, right? They don't pay you till 60 days after they receive the bottles. But it takes me a month or two to make these bottles. And then I got to ship it to them. So there's another 3 to 5 days, depending on where I'm shipping. Let's call it a week. Then they get it. Now they have to place it into their stores. They're not going to pay me for 60 days after that. So what's 2 months? My order happened a month ago. Then I finally get the official purchase order. Now I need 2 months. Then I don't get paid for 2 months. It's like a half a year.
Yeah. It's almost like a quarter and a half. Almost, 2 quarters. Yeah.
So the problem is you have to float all that money. Here's a bigger problem. Our drinks sold really well. Doesn't sound like a problem, right? It's a huge problem. Because 2 weeks into they reordered.
And they still are not going to pay you for the first
So they're not
batch.
paying me for 60 days for the first batch.
So you need to pay even more. So you need cash up front to fund the momentum. Wow. So how did you get funding?
Beg borrowed and didn't steal, but beg borrowed. Normally you could just factor the purchase order. So you could take let's say you got an order from Costco and it's for $1 million. You could go to what's called a factor and they would give it to you based on the amount of money that Costco was going to pay you. They would give you a portion of that money. They would guarantee it by getting the paperwork, the money owed to them now. You would pay a premium plus an interest rate percentage on top of that. We were babies at the time.
Right.
So they didn't trust us, even though we had hard paper.
For sure.
The first 2 years, they just didn't. Later, obviously, when we were 25, 26, we were doing millions of dollars. They were all fine with it. But the first order, especially the one from Albertsons, that was for $2 million. That was our biggest headache of all time. Because the president got us, he loved it, he put us in, we crushed it, he reordered nationwide, and all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, how are we supposed to float this? And
you couldn't negotiate any adjustment of terms on payday or anything because of the momentum?
We've tried, some retailers are okay with that, where you can offer them a discount. So if you do COD, cash on delivery, you can offer them a discount to pay you COD. And some chain stores eat that up because their margins they work off are very small.
Right.
But we were already paying shelving space. So they didn't care. We're already paying to be on the shelves because what I call eye level is buy level.
Right.
So let's say I take this Glide Immunity and I wrap a $20 bill around it. And it's $3. You would pay $3 for a $20 bill and a drink, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If I put it in the bottom shelf, you can't see it.
Right.
So
what does it matter?
So Red Bull, Monster, and Rockstar pay for these shelves. Eye level is buy level. And so we were paying for shelf space to be in the same thing. Or if we couldn't afford to outbid them, we would just ask for the very, very top, which is out of eye level, but our cans were bright yellow and bright red and green for the green tea. So people would see it.
Which is also part of your marketing strategy, because I remember you saying before that you noticed people who were doing energy drinks had it too long. The names are too long.
Yeah, the name was too long. It wraps around the can.
And so that's why you guys had it Who's Your Daddy, right? On top, so you could all see it at once. And then you guys were also leaders in terms of making it more colorful, things like that, right? You guys set that trend with the energy drinks.
Because they were all silver and black at the time. And they were so stubborn in their ways, it was great for us. Now you notice that all different colors, all different flavors, but back in the days, there was one Monster can. It was black with the green M, which is a great looking logo. One flavor, one thing, nothing else. Finally, they started doing sugar-free. Red Bull. It's still the same color can. They happened to start doing other flavors 3 or 4 years ago, finally blueberry and different things like that.
Yeah, and then I wanted to ask, because I know people listening might be, whether they're entrepreneurs or thinking about starting their own business, they might be looking at different industries or seeing places that they can improve. What were some insights or thoughts that you had when you were looking at energy drinks? What were some flaws you saw, or what were some of those things wrong? Can you give people a look inside your thinking at that time?
So the main thing to start off was the cough syrup taste. So because they all had that same thick consistency, people weren't enjoying their experience for something that they're supposed to be enjoying every day, right? You buy orange juice, cranberry juice, etc., because you like it, right? When you start to buy functional drinks, you don't necessarily like it. If you buy alcohol, most alcohol doesn't actually taste good. It's just you have to mix it with something, right? But I thought, well, if Gatorade can taste good, and I can turn down the bubbles in the energy drink, I can make it taste like Gatorade. And if I can make it taste like Gatorade, I love Gatorade, so I can drink it every single day.
Right.
I would drink energy drinks for function, except they tasted horrible. So if I can fix that problem, I think there's a win there. It was the same thing with online poker. When I started the poker site, there's 550 poker sites. I didn't go in thinking I'm going to beat Poker Stars and Full Tilt. These guys were doing $4 million and $8 million a day, respectively.
Right, because I know you started with the third largest.
We became the third largest poker site, but that was because I went in there with the intention of being the coolest poker site. Hired DJ Steve Aoki and Dan Bilzerian and Playboy Playmates and like make it fun and cool. Don't go in and try to beat Poker Stars. Like that's not real life.
Right.
So in both poker site and the beverage market, I don't go in there with the intention of becoming number one. I go in there with the intention of becoming the best product possible, which will elevate me to being the 7th biggest energy drink and the 3rd biggest poker site.
So what's interesting about that is that most people look at being the most, financially successful up front, but it seems like a recurring theme with you is that you try to excel at one particular niche that's important, relevant to that industry.
Quality of the product.
Exactly, yes. So for poker, it was the culture around the experience. For the energy drink, it was the fact that it was, it tasted good, it was the best tasting of the year, and then you knew that you could leverage that for more.
Right.
That's pretty interesting because I think most entrepreneurs don't take that approach, right?
Just got to be number one.
Yeah, they just got to make the most money or get the biggest or whatever it is. So the poker site, how did that all come about? And then what were some approaches to how you guys built it? Because I know you guys built it out the platform with Dan Bilzerian, Steve Aoki. How did that come about and how did you start executing on that?
So I'd always loved poker, and I'd done the same career for 10 years with the Who's Your Daddy brand, so I just wanted another feather in my cap. So I decided to start an online poker site, and it was kind of on a whim. I was 27 years old. I started researching what the void was out of the 550 poker sites, and I saw that Bodog, which was like the cool poker site, was now only focused on sports betting and gambling, and they really weren't focused on poker anymore. So that was my niche. So I found a gambling attorney. I found KPMG accounting. I found out I needed a gaming license in one of these foreign countries. So I got a backpack and I moved to Malta. Like I literally went there, booked a hotel room at the Hilton, and then I ended up getting a condo right next door to the Hilton. And I just never left. Like I just moved to Malta.
Yeah.
Kind of what I was saying about being a young entrepreneur when you don't have family at the time, like, and you're willing to gamble. Again, what's the worst case scenario? I go back with my backpack with my head down and I move back into my mom's house.
And a lesson learned, yeah, absolutely.
So I moved to Malta. I hire a team of gaming executives and I kind of look around and see who's out there. And we built a website within, a month or two. Got all the gaming licenses with another month or two. By Super Bowl, on the Super Bowl Sunday, we went live. So thought about it in September and we were live by Super Bowl Sunday.
That's amazing.
And it was a wild thing because I had 24 poker pros and Playboy Playmates and Steve Aoki and Dan Bilzerian, all these characters promoting it. But then the poker shows, the TV shows, Poker Stars and Full Tilt would spend like $9 million on a TV show. I can't spend $90 million. We only raised $2.5 million. How am I going to go spend, right? And so I put in 6 figures. I raised a couple million more, and I decided I'm going to market this as cool as I can, but not waste the money, because I can't fight against Poker Stars and Full Tilt. So if you can't beat them, join them. And what I mean by that was they had these televised poker shows. I specifically signed certain poker pros that always played on their shows that didn't have a deal yet. And I put Victory Poker
on the shirts, yeah, so you leverage that airtime.
Right. Now, the poker shows, there's only a very, very small handful amount of people that can afford to play 6-figure buy-in cash games.
Right.
So by me signing those guys, they couldn't cut them out because they needed them to fill the seats, especially internationally. There's even less people that could afford to play 6-figure games internationally. This is like a huge hurdle for them because they don't want my pros wearing Victory Poker, but they need to have Antonio Esfandiari and Dan Bilzerian and Andrew Roble and these poker characters in the seats because they're the young guns of poker. So they started just capping me. So they created a rule because of us, a three patch rule. So no more than 3 patches of any poker site could be on any one show. Well, I maxed out on every freaking show in the world.
Yeah,
I had 3 pros on every single show. I made sure they had multiple buy-ins so they could play the whole time.
Right.
I was playing on every show I could too. I was playing on 48-hour TV show of poker where people would leave and come back, leave and come back. I would play all 48 hours straight.
Wow.
And just fight through it because those were my moments.
Yeah.
Those were my times to be on television
Marketing
for free
time.
with Victory Poker and talking and like throwing in one-liners and in between hands. I knew if I had a big hand going on, I could mention Victory Poker. Like those were my times where these guys were paying millions of dollars in production. We're there for free. And a lot of the guys were making money while doing it, so they enjoyed being there.
Right.
So I didn't try to fight with the big guys. I tried to be a part of them, let them be like, tap me on the head, like, okay, little guy, like, and it worked. We ended up getting tens of thousands of new players per month because we were getting all this free promotion.
And then when you built that, I know you simultaneously had other companies, correct?
During that time, I didn't.
Okay.
So that was the turning point where when online poker was shut down in America, that was the biggest turning point for me where I never wanted to have all my eggs in one basket again.
Right, because I remember the regulations came in and then that kind of threw things for a loop, right?
Right.
Okay.
And so from that moment, that's when I started consulting for casinos, consulting for major financial corporations, angel investing in different companies, because I lost tens of millions of dollars in one day on April 15th for Black Friday.
That was a really Black Friday.
Yes, that's literally the name of it.
Yeah.
Because I lost so much money and so much value on one day, I never wanted to have all my eggs in one basket again. And so the reason you hear guys like Ty Lopez say, if you only have one income stream, you become vulnerable, it's true. I had Victory Poker, all my eggs were in that basket, we were doing millions and millions of dollars in revenue, we were worth tens of millions of dollars, people were offering to give us millions of dollars to buy pieces of the company, like we were high flying, like this is great, this is the heyday, we're on TV everywhere.
And you guys are doing it quick, right? I mean, in the span of a year, you guys are already top 3.
Exactly. But because I was vulnerable, it was all gone in one day. So that was the culmination of what made me who I am. That failure, I could have sat on the floor and cried about it, but instead, I put myself out there. I did 83 interviews over the next 4 days. I paid all 41,000 real money players back within 4 days so I could.
Which is amazing. I do want to talk about that because you guys were, I believe, the only site to do that. Is that correct?
Right.
So can you explain to people who might not be too familiar with it?
Some people are just now getting paid back 6 years later.
Wow.
That's how intense it was.
Can you explain what it was for people who might not be too familiar with that story, what happened, what the regulations were, and then what you ended up doing by paying people back?
So my competitors were miscoding transactions, the merchant accounts. So let's say you deposited $500 on PokerStars, and he deposited $800, and I deposited $200. Your credit card statement would say flowers.com, his would say PS3, mine would say mattresses.biz. They were miscoding transactions because it was not legal at the time, or Visa didn't like people doing those transactions, and so they would keep getting merchant accounts closed. So to prevent that, they would just say PS3, mattresses, and flowers, right? Mine said Victory Poker and Wells Fargo.
That's it. Yeah.
That was it. And I had KPMG accounting doing it all. So we didn't get in trouble because we were doing it properly.
Right.
However, when the big guys get shut down, I become the big guy. I didn't want to be the big guy because they could always find a problem. And so I also knew that legislation, lawyers, accountants, bank accounts, IRS, SEC, all the people that were involved in every single angle of the money, they were going to tie up a lot of things over time for those guys, and I didn't want to be in that mix. And so I thought the best strategy was pay every single person back. If it gets regulated properly and things come back, I'll come back. If it doesn't, I'll be clean and safe and I can sleep at night. And thank God I did, because years went on where people didn't get paid back. And then finally PokerStars saved the day. They saved the poker world. They bought Full Tilt Poker and paid back all their debts.
Wow.
If they didn't do that, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of people's money wouldn't be there. Yeah. If you had 10 grand, he had 50 grand, that guy had 2 grand, nobody would have been paid back. So PokerStars really saved the day by having so much money, they just paid it all back. But it still took half a decade before that really happened. So it was a safe play for me to just pay everybody back. It was not easy to pay everybody back, but I had to pay everybody back.
I was going to say, is it mentally hard when there's millions in the account to just voluntarily release it? I mean, is that hard when you're like, all right, let's do it? I mean, what's that feel like? What was that decision making process?
It was hard because the timing. It was April 15th. On April 19th, I had booked $63,000 in flights for Playboy Playmates and models and poker pros, videographers to go to Costa Rica to film this entire new marketing campaign.
Right.
4 days later.
Wow.
But instead, 4 days later, I wired back zillions of dollars to everybody. Mm-hmm. So it was April 19th was not what it was. April 19th, I was supposed to be in Costa Rica filming all these fun things, and instead I'm paying back $142 to that guy and $4,000 to that guy, and paying back tens of thousands of people.
And then after that, you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to do a new play. So what happens after that?
So after that was a bit of shell shock, because you wake up in the morning, you're like, well, now what? I had a purpose and a company every single day, and now I'm like a chicken with a head cut off.
Right.
So my now what was helped because I became...
How old were you at this stage?
29.
So you're 29 when the poker thing kind of clears out.
No, maybe I'm 30.
Okay.
29 or 30.
30?
It's April 15, 2011, so 6 years ago. I'm 30, yeah. So now, because I'm the only clean guy in the space, because my competitors are either dead or in jail. That was it. They all got their money seized and they're all in trouble. And I'm the only clean guy.
Right.
And so because of that, I started getting hit up by casinos, online, live. I ended up consulting for multiple casinos in Nevada. I consulted for one of the biggest financial firms in the world. And I was just sitting in these rooms teaching 16 guys from a financial firm for 8 hours a day, like why online poker is going to be one of the biggest things in the world, taxes wise for states, how much revenue it can bring in, why it's good for the economy, why it's this, why it's that. Those things helped rebuild. Because I literally paid out, I mean,
millions of dollars, yeah.
Yeah. And I was,
I can tell the number's scary, don't worry.
And so consulting for those casinos and financial institutions really helped me financially rebuild. And I started angel investing at the same time. And I ended up taking a CEO position of a casino for 1 year, which was, again, all those things never would have happened if it wasn't for me just paying everybody back.
Right. So it's almost like you kind of like learned the lesson and then just made the best of it and then kept scaling those lessons, basically.
Yeah, again, I didn't have a choice.
Right.
When your company on 10 a.m. on Black Friday fails, whether you failed or not, it failed. The government shut everybody down. They didn't shut me down, but I shut down willingly. Failure's a failure. It's just a scoreboard, right? Nobody remembers how somebody won in 1946 at this baseball game.
Yeah.
They just know it was a win or a loss. The company's gone. So whether it's my failure or not, it was my failure.
Right.
So that culminating moment caused what I had to do. What I had to do was get back in the game.
Right.
Go on 83 interviews, pay everybody back, and get your shit together. That was my only option. I didn't have an option of just sitting on the floor and crying. I had to go back into it. And so by having to go back into it, it caused me to, yes, I'll consult for you X casino, Y casino, Z casino. Yeah, of course I'll consult for you.
Yeah, I'm the guy for the job.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I'll put my suit on, let's go.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have a plan. I just had necessity. And necessity causes what you're going to do.
And then you ended up going into angel investing from there?
Yeah.
And then I know now you're actively involved in over 24 companies, correct?
Yeah.
26 companies,
26
you
companies,
said?
yeah.
What are some of those companies that people might know?
One of the new ones is Glide Immunity. I like it because it's shelf stable and it only has 5 core ingredients, so it can sit on the shelf for a year. So it's kind of like taking Emergency. And I like the founder a lot. The kid was literally sleeping on couches and he was doing artwork at people's houses. And so I introduced him to 4 of my friends that were in art space. I started posting him on all our social media accounts, and now he's getting $4,000 to $10,000 per painting, and he's booked out for a year and a half.
Wow.
And so he stayed humble the whole time. And even though he's making all this money from artwork, he put all his energy on the side into this. So the not sleep at night thing, he's painting for 10 hours a day and then still working on a beverage company, a healthy beverage at nighttime. And so I bet on the horse, I bet on the jockey, I bet on the people that are gonna lead me to win. And so he is who I bet on. And whatever product he would have showed me, whether it's a table or a phone case or a beverage, I would have bet on him. One of our biggest ones was dollarbeardclub.com.
Right.
They have tens of thousands of monthly members, and it's for beards. It's oils and shampoos and things like that. And we were able to bootstrap it from the beginning, and then Bill Zarian got involved and did a huge promotion, which got tens of thousands of members in one day because Dan Bilzerian's following is so big. And that one ended up having tens and tens of thousands of monthly members for monthly beards for Dollar Beard Club. Another one in the monthly box space is called trendybutler.com. I like that one a lot. It's $65 a month and you get $150 worth of men's clothing every month. We put in the first 6 figures. Brandon actually put in even more on top of that. Then our friends put in 1.2 million more. Then our other friends put another million in. Like our whole crew is really into this trendybutler.com because it's a real business with real like science behind it. It's not just about sending you clothes every month. If you live in Florida and I live in New York and he lives in Vegas, our boxes will all be different based on weather, based on sizing, based on our likes. So it's not just another monthly clothing box because there's plenty of them.
Right.
It actually cares about what we care about and then reacts to what month of the year it is. So we're not getting shorts in December. We're not getting sweaters in the summer.
Right. It's personalized.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's more like a personalized 5-4 type thing.
Exactly.
Correct? Yeah. And then I know U-Wheels, right? You were actively involved in U-Wheels.
Yeah.
The hoverboards. Can you talk about a little bit of your guys' marketing strategy? Because I know that was pretty innovative in the space.
Sure. So that was a fun fad. Basically, I saw hoverboards and I never thought of it as something I was going to exit. So I thought of it as how much money can we make from this during the fad period? And how do we do it better? So the competitors were $1,500 and $1,800. I said, that's too expensive. Let's make our $700. We'll make a smaller profit margin, but more people can afford it. So we made it $699. Okay, what's different about theirs? Well, they're both the same. They look like the $100, $200 Alibaba type boards.
Right.
So what we did was we installed Bluetooth speakers inside. So now you have a cool board with Bluetooth speakers inside that you can hook up to your music. And we added lights on the sides so that it was recognizable that we weren't just another board. So we added these lights that would look super cool like. So by doing that, we made it less than half the price, Bluetooth speakers. Our batteries were $83. Our competitors were using $12 batteries. So the guys that had the hoverboards that caught on fire, it's because you're putting a human on top of something with a $12 battery in it.
Right.
So for us...
So those profit margins for them must have been huge then. If they're using parts like that. If they're charging $1,200 and $1,800.
Right.
How much on average, do you feel comfortable saying how much you think that those units probably cost?
$100.
That they were selling for $1,800 or $1,500? Wow.
And they were mostly just buying on Alibaba. So our cost was higher. We were in the $240, $250 range. And then we were wholesaling for $350 and then they were retailing for $699. Our margin was smaller, but I was getting,
volume.
$900,000 orders from Zoomies, and we were getting reorders every 2-3 weeks because we made the hoverboard that was cool, affordable, and higher quality. It's kind of like what we keep talking about. The quality is what's important because I care about people reordering and I care about them telling their friends. So we started doing $40,000 a day online for months. And we did it because we would have Lil Wayne, Amber Rose, TV shows, everybody, soccer players, everybody posting these hoverboards because they wanted to. We made it something that was a fad, a culture, but we also knew that there was a short time span. We didn't expect the time span to be cut so much because of those fires. Our competitors catching boards on fire hurt everything because now the US government wouldn't allow you to ship hoverboards into the dock, into the port. And so all of a sudden, it was kind of like the poker space. It was over. We found out, wait, they're going to ban this. 3 weeks later, they banned it.
Wow. And then did you guys already have a bunch of inventory?
We were lucky because we were still able to sell online. We just blocked American orders, and the chain stores that had it, they'd sold through it. So timing-wise, we didn't get hurt.
Right.
We had like 8,400 hoverboards, so we had a couple million left in the warehouse, but we didn't get hurt by it because we had enough time to sell those internationally.
Right.
And do it properly. So, and we never raised a penny, and we never spent a penny on marketing.
So it was all just social media?
That was it.
So when you guys were reaching out to...
We didn't do one Facebook ad, nothing.
When you guys were reaching out to influencers, were you paying them or just giving them free hoverboards?
Only gave them free boards. We never spent one single penny. And we never wrote one single check. We never did one PayPal.
Wow.
Never once.
Did you guys offer to give them the devices and say
to keep them, yeah.
So you would say if you post it, you can keep it, or you would suggest it, or how would you elegantly get influencers to do it?
You had to give them something of value. Right. If I give somebody a $3 drink, I can't expect Lil Wayne to post that. He gets tens of thousands of dollars for a post or more. the hoverboards, because we created an implied value and scarcity of it, of us having the highest quality one, you had to have ours. If you bought the other ones, you bought the cheap one or the raggedy one.
Overpriced crap.
Right, exactly. So by creating that implied value, we made them want it. So we had social media stars and influencers making YouTube video. Like everybody wanted to have our hoverboard because our hoverboard was the cool kid. And so by creating that value, they wanted to post about it. And that's what caused so much of our sales. Like we would average 40 grand a day, but then the day if Steve Aoki posts or Amber Rose posts, we would do $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 in sales.
And what were some key ways that you built relationships with influencers? Because a lot of people know that you're kind of in the trenches with a lot of them. What advice do you have to people out there who are looking to start their thing or get creative with their own marketing strategy? Any tips for entrepreneurs like that in terms of how to connect and how to get influencers to help leverage their marketing?
So the thing about social media influencers and celebrities is you have to provide them value.
Right.
They're real people that are getting bombarded by hundreds and hundreds of people a day.
Everybody, yeah.
Every single angle, from their friend from 1942 to their agent, their manager, their lawyer, their accountant, their best friend, their friend's friend's friend. Everybody wants them to do this. That's not realistic. They're not going to do that unless you provide value for them or you pay them. So the reason I have so many influencers in our circle, we're paying out hundreds and hundreds of influencers, celebrities, is because I kept it very simple. I'm going to pay you money. I'm going to write you your caption, and I'm going to send you the product or drop it off at your house. I made every single thing easy for them so that all the influencer has to do is this.
Right.
And because I do that, they don't even have to write their caption. They all like working with us. I don't sign any management contracts. I don't own them. I don't need to hang out with them. I make it very simple. I'm going to pay you for a good product, and you copy and paste this caption, and I'm going to prepay you for it. I take away all the no's. What I mean by that is, whenever I do sales, I remove all the no's while I'm talking. Because the order taker, the person that's the buyer for a chain store or for whatever you're selling, it's their job to protect their job.
Right.
Okay? They don't want to take a risk on a new product or a new book or a new phone case or a new whatever. So you have to make it safe for them to put their neck out on the line to buy your product. So I remove the no's by saying we're already selling in 7-Eleven. We're selling it for $1 less than our competitors. We've already gotten into 14 states. What did I just do?
Yeah,
I edified it.
Yeah.
I said we're already in 7-Eleven. Well, if our product's good enough for 7-Eleven, why wouldn't Circle K or Chevron or Ralph's or the car wash buy it? You've removed the biggest no because they don't want to be first. They don't want to risk their job for you.
Right.
So by saying you're already in 7-Eleven, you've removed it. By saying you're a better price point, I'm $2.99 instead of $3.99, you've removed it. You're removing all those pain points. And you're removing them a chance to say no. And if you can keep removing the words of saying no, it's much closer to a yes.
That makes sense. So what a recurring theme is that you're looking to produce the value, the best product, and make it the easiest so that it's easier to the end consumer to just use the product, right?
Well, no matter who the end consumer is, influencer's the end consumer too.
So
because I need to get to them and I have to cut through all the noise.
Right.
They're getting hundreds of texts a day, hundreds of DMs a day, they're getting hundreds of messages from every single angle, and it's just all noise. So I cut through it all. My messages are, I want to pay you for this. What is your PayPal info or bank account info? This product is already sold in this, and this. That's my paragraph.
Simple as that.
It's a few sentences saying, I want to pay you. So immediately they look, because it's not, and I don't say it late. I say it in the first few words.
Right.
Because if I say it later, they may never get to later.
They may not get to that end, yeah.
If they just say, hey, John, how are you doing? You're just another message, or another DM or another text.
So you cover all angles from marketing to communication to building these businesses. How do you manage it all? How do you deal with, because people on the outside are having a hard enough time building one company or two companies. How have you been able to scale all this, leverage all the finances involved, but still it's a lot of work. What are some things that you personally use to stay on top of all your simultaneous projects and keep them, successful at a high level?
So to me, it's all of a checklist. The reason that the book starts out with a checklist right at the beginning of 30 things to do is because if you do those things systematically, everything kind of falls into place. The problem for most people is when they're doing their whatever they're working on, they're scattered. Kind of like when I say fake busy, they choose to do this and they choose to do that when they're not getting through everything that they're supposed to be doing. I make everything checklist style. If in all my group chats with all of our companies, every company we invest in, every product we have, every project we're working on has a checklist. And right out the gate, file a corporation, do this website, do the brand design, do the logo design, do the packaging. We need the ingredients to say this, or we need the product to say that. Oh, we need to meet with the warehouse, we need shipping, customer service. I make an actual checklist in our group chats, depending on what the product is or what the project is. And by doing that, it removes the
conversation, opinions, this, that. Yeah,
things that take months.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of getting through the next step, the next step, the next step, the next step. Pretty soon we have a product and we're ready for launch.
Because all I really care about is I want to get through all that stuff so we can be selling. And I don't understand how people don't focus more on sales. One of the best lines Mark Cuban ever said was, sales cures all. It does. If you have sales, whether you're making money or not, it's easier for you to raise money. If you have sales, it's easier for you to get more sales. If you have sales, it's easier for you to get lines of credit, loans, more. It's easier for you to do everything if you have sales. But by people not spending at least an hour or two just selling, preferably more, but let's just call it an hour or two, it's insanity to me. If I just had somebody going door to door selling the books, we would sell way more books. If I had somebody just going door to door selling the drinks, we would have more sales of the drinks, right? Whatever it is you're selling, if it's yourself, if you're a massage therapist, a real estate agent, whatever you are, if you don't spend at least an hour or two just selling, you're missing out. Because if you spend an hour or two a day, that's 365 to 730 hours a year. That's a month of selling.
Why do you think most people don't sell?
They're afraid to sell.
Why?
And I think it's shameful if you don't sell.
That's what Grant Cardone says too. We interviewed him, he said it's selfish.
It's ridiculous. If you think you made a good product that helps people healthy, right? If you make a book that's very simple and straightforward, if you make a phone case that's better and it's charging people's phones, why on earth would you be scared to sell it? That's what you made it for. You made it to fix a problem. So why wouldn't you want to help people? And if you make your price affordable, I think you should be scared if you're trying to sell this book for $500 or this drink for $30 or the phone case for $400. Then you should be offended and scared and you shouldn't go talk to people. But if you're making a good product for a good price point and it helps people, it's your duty to go sell. It's insane for you not to go sell. If you're making something affordable that helps people's lives, that provides value to them, how can you not want to go sell it?
Yeah, it's true. What metric do you use when it comes to pricing? Do you have any rules of thumbs or like a mental question that it has to pass this question when you price it or anything like that? Yeah,
so every product I have, I always want to sell it at comparable to my competitors and a little bit less. And the reason for it is I don't mind making a little bit less margin to have much bigger quantities. So if I look at it, when I had the energy drinks, my competitors were $3.99 and $2.99. So mine was always $1.99. When I have the books, if other people are selling for $25 or $30, mine's $20. If an ebook is $10, mine's $5. I do that across the board of every single thing that I do because you make up for it in volume and it removes the no. I always want to remove the no. The people are offended.
Right, yes, you take out the obstacles to begin with. Because it's hard enough to build a business. Now imagine to build it and then you, from the start, you have all these obstacles of why are you charging so much?
You just look at your competitors and you know what to charge.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever gotten involved with a business where it was premium and so you sold it at a premium price, or do you try to stay away from business models like that if the leverage isn't there?
I don't mind a premium product at a premium price if it's comparable to the other premium products.
Right.
Like if you're selling those fancy metal roses and people are $149 and I need to sell for $149 or $199, that's fine. I won't sell a similar product. I won't sell premium products just to sell at premium pricing. I don't believe in that. I could turn this book into a $1,000 course, but I sell it for $20. But I sell, lots and lots of books.
Right.
So I make up for it in scale and I make up for it in value that I'm providing for people. So I prefer not to do things at a premium pricing because even though you have to sell less to make the same amount of money, I don't like selling less of something. I like selling to the masses.
I like that. It's very ethical too, and it helps a lot of people trust your brands and trust when you get involved with it. And that's probably why you've had a lot of success with having other people believe in your ideas. When it comes to the book, can you share a little bit about it? I know it's how to set up your business for under $1,000 with your partner. Can you share to people out there who might be thinking about starting their business why the book might be advantageous for them?
Yeah, so the book is very straightforward. It's a checklist, how to actually get things done, how to actually go do those things, and then a bunch of websites on how to go do what you didn't think you knew how to do. And the book is basically on just how to get started, because that's the biggest thing that holds people back. If today we're like, we're gonna make phonecases.com, well, most people will take months and months and months of thinking and all this. I make a very straightforward checklist, 30 things to do to make you go live with phonecases.com. And then really you could go through that checklist tonight and we could be live tomorrow. If we stayed up all night, we could be live tonight. And we could be selling phone cases and seeing if people care. And it just tells you how to go research competitors so you know how to price your phone cases for 20 bucks. How to do your logo, how to do your branding, how to do your corporation, how to do your trademark, how to set up your business. That's the whole point of it. It's just straightforward that you could read it in an hour or two of just how to actually go do it instead of just sitting there thinking about it and talking about it.
And why do you think most people just get stuck? Same reason they're afraid to sell. They're afraid to take action, take initiative, fear of failure. I mean, what do you think holds most people back? Because, I mean, your story is amazing. I mean, think about it. You came from, a rough situation growing up with your mother, and out of necessity built this momentum in business, whereas a lot of people might have had even more advantages than you might have had, or even more reason to be urgent than you might have had, but still they didn't produce the results where they could scale business. What do you think it is that holds people back, and what's your advice to those people?
I think people are held back by themselves. It's kind of like your uncle came up with a better fishing lure 15 years ago. And he just won't ever start the fishing lure company because he's scared. He thinks website costs tens of thousands. He thinks lawyers cost tens of thousands. And he forgets that it's 2017. So he's been talking to you about fishing lures at every family dinner for 15 freaking years, right?
I'm sure you still have people in your family like that,
Absolutely.
Right?
That's why I bring it up. I could start fishinglures.com tonight for a couple $100, maybe even free. And I think it's insanity to not just try, because I can drop ship other people's fishing lures until I make enough money to make my own fishing lures. And then once I make enough money for my own fishing lures, it'll be easy for me to raise money if I need it, and I can make that better fishing lure. There's fishing conventions, there's fishing blogs, there's fishing websites, there's fishing social media, all these things about fishing for me to go out there and make a better fishing lure. And I have a way that if I don't have the money to start, I could just be drop shipping other people's fishing lures and writing blogs and making a podcast about fishing lures. Everything I just said is free.
Right.
Starting the podcast, I need a freaking iPhone and an iTunes account. Starting a WordPress.com blog or a Shopify site or a ClickFunnels site for my fishing lures, I can start today. Doing Amazon or eBay and drop shipping other people's fishing lures from Alibaba, I can start today. All of those things cost nothing. Literally nothing. But my uncle will be talking about fishing lures for 15 years.
Most people will never take immediate action. Yeah, it's true. Now, do you think that based on the momentum of everything you built, that business is your passion, or would you say it's more of the philanthropy? Because I know you guys also have the Citizens Fund, the Model Citizens Fund, where you guys put over 150 items in backpacks. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So both are the passion. The business is the passion because it leads to more stuff for my charity.
Right.
Every single company, I try to involve a charity event. And we throw a charity event almost every month or two, really every month. So the passion part is my charity, because I'm always going to be doing that for the rest of my life. The business fuels that. So it's kind of like when people say money is the root of all evil. No, people are the root of all evil. Money is just a factor to me. Money is just a tool. Money is just chips on a poker table. You have to have money to do all the things that I want to do. I don't care about money. You don't see me posting cars and jets, and I don't want it or have it. I want to buy pieces of companies, and I want those to multiply out, so I can buy pieces of more companies, and all of those create jobs. And I think if I can help create thousands and thousands of jobs, which helps tens of thousands of family members, that's my gift. That's what I can do for the world. And I think if I can inspire more and more people to create more companies and go out and not quit their job doing it, because we're in 2017. You can run a side hustle a couple hours a day on your phone. It's just sincerely that simple. And I don't want people to go quit their accounting job where they're making 60 grand a year. Don't quit that. You leave at 5 o'clock most of the time.
Right.
Do you know how many hours are between 6 p.m. and midnight?
Gary Vee reminds us daily.
I talked to Gary about it. I'm passionate about it. I've been talking about it for years.
Yeah.
It's insanity. If you spent 2 hours a day on your side hustle, that's 730 hours a year. How can you not? 730 hours, that's a month. You have 13 months if you want it, instead of 12.
It's about creating time, creating that priority. Now, and you think most people just don't do it just out of fear, out of anxiety, of, it's just all these hypotheticals, it's too expensive, I don't have the time, I'm not smart enough, I'm not ready.
All those things. And all of them are bullshit.
So in all your experience, summed up to now, if Dan Flesyshman could give the world a 60-second piece of advice, if you could look in the camera or people listening on this on the podcast, what would be your best advice to the world as from the youngest founder of a publicly traded company in history who's built all these businesses and had this massive impact with the nonprofit? What's your best 60-second piece of wisdom to the world?
Here's my best 60 seconds. First of all, just get started. Nothing should hold you back anymore. Social media is free. Building websites are basically free now. Everything you want is available to you through Google, websites, ClickFunnels, Shopify. Every single tool that I didn't have back in my day is free to you now. So it's insane not to just get started. Then once you just get started, tell people. You start telling people on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, all these different, Snapchat, all these different platforms, free, 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 free. Now you start getting your product out there, telling more people about it, getting people involved, and they start telling people, all of a sudden the free, 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 free thing spreads more and more and more. If you don't just get started, nothing happens. But your risk factor is so small that it's insanity not to just get started. Because you can start it for cheap, you can spread the word for cheap, you can find out if people care, and if they care, then you can go all in. Then you can put the energy into it. But if you don't go back to day one, where it's just the idea that you keep talking about on the couch, nothing's ever gonna happen.
What would the Dan now, what would his best advice be to the young Dan who was once sleeping, on couches with your mom in the rough situation, trying to figure things out in life? Knowing what you know now, what would be your best advice to little Dan?
Little Dan, make one-page agreements with everybody. Whether it's what they have to do, what they don't have to do, who's gonna do what, how much each person has, and make those obligations very clear. And by making that one-page agreement, and you can do that with family members, you can do it with children. If you want your kid to mow the lawn every day by 3 p.m. and he's gonna get X for doing that, make that one-page agreement. I think I missed out on so many situations where that's my friend, that's my brother, that's my cousin, that's my friend's friend. That guy's rich, he's never gonna screw me. No. Make a one-page, very simple agreement with everybody that just lays out who's gonna do what, who has what, and why. And by doing that, it removes the fact, let's say you and I were buddies in high school and we were gonna start this beverage company. But then 3 years in, you get hired by Facebook to go move to Silicon Valley. Well, technically you still own 50%, but now you don't work or do anything, and I'm stuck and I gotta go find another co-founder or I'm stuck holding the bag.
Yeah, or contractually say you got to sign something and it's 50-50 and now he's not putting in the work, but on paper, and then you get him to, you got to buy him out, or you got to figure out some sort of way to get him out.
So by making it clear, you have to do X amount of hours or X amount of things, or this is your role, or you're the sales manager, whatever it is up front, it would prevent a later situation. And by just not having that, communication is the biggest killer of relationships.
I love that. Okay, and then at the end of every interview, we always play a game called First Things First. So the way the game works is I'm going to say 10 words or phrase, and then you tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm going to rifle them off, and then you tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind. The only rule is that you can't repeat yourself twice.
Okay.
Got it? So the first word is going to be contribution.
Charity.
Money.
A tool.
Stress.
Always.
To-do list.
In every aspect of life.
Relaxation.
What's that?
Love.
Mandatory.
Your network.
Is your net worth.
Your failures.
Make me who I am.
Your successes.
Make me want to do more.
And then the last one, your legacy.
My charity.
I love it. Dan, thanks for being on the show today.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. That's it, guys. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of The Passionate Few. We'll see you next time.